Imagine being stuck in an airport, not for hours, not for days, but for 18 long years. This is not the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster, but the extraordinary reality of one man's life. Our story begins in the year 1988. The man who would become a living testament to endurance and perseverance, Mehran Karimi Nasseri, an Iranian refugee, finds himself in an unthinkable predicament. He is stranded in the bustling hub of international travel, the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. Now, you might ask, how does one find themselves stranded in an airport for such an extended period of time? The answer lies in a complex web of legal issues and bureaucracy. Nasseri, you see, had been expelled from Iran in 1977 for protests against the Shah. He was granted refugee status by the United Nations and began a nomadic life across Europe. But in 1988, a series of unfortunate events led to him losing his refugee documents. Without these critical papers, he was unable to prove his identity or legal status. He was in effect a man without a country. And so, Charles de Gaulle Airport became his home, not by choice but by circumstance. A bustling terminal, teeming with travelers from all walks of life, became his living room. The airport's restaurants and shops, his kitchen and pantry, the rows of seats, his bedroom. But this is not just a story of survival. It's a tale of resilience, of the human spirit's ability to adapt and endure. Nasseri carved out a life for himself in the most unlikely of places, amidst the constant cacophony of announcements and the ceaseless flow of passengers. He found ways to sustain himself, to keep his spirit from being crushed by the weight of his predicament. He wrote his memoirs, read books, and even managed to maintain a semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. So began an 18-year saga of survival, resilience, and the human spirit. In 1988, the year Nasseri's life took an unexpected detour. From Iran to France, Nasseri found himself in a peculiar situation, a resident of Terminal 1 at Charles de Gaulle Airport. His passport, his ticket to freedom, had been stolen, leaving him in a legal limbo. It was here, in this bustling hub of international travel, that he would spend the next 18 years of his life. The early years were undoubtedly the hardest. Imagine being stuck in a place where everyone is always on the move, yet you are standing still, an observer to the passing of time. Nasseri's days were spent pacing the terminal, sleeping on benches, and navigating the language barrier that added to his isolation. French was a foreign tongue to Nasseri, and the constant hum of English, German, Spanish, and a plethora of other languages echoed around him, a cacophony of unintelligible chatter. The lack of privacy was a challenge too. Airports are public spaces, designed for transients, not residents. There was no quiet corner, no personal space. Nasseri was on display for thousands of travelers who passed through the terminal daily. His life had become a fishbowl, his struggle a spectacle for the world to see. Securing basic needs like food and clothing was another hurdle. Nasseri relied on the kindness of airport staff and sympathetic travelers. A fast food restaurant worker often provided Nasseri with meals, and an airline employee regularly brought him clothes. They were small gestures of humanity amidst the impersonal bustle of the airport. Nasseri's situation was a testament to human resilience. He adapted, he survived, he persisted. He found ways to communicate with the airport staff, to sustain himself, and to maintain his dignity in challenging circumstances. As years turned into a decade, Nasseri had become a permanent fixture of the airport, a human monument to bureaucracy gone awry. His story was no longer just about a man stuck in an airport. It was a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure, to adapt, and to find hope amidst despair. The 90s rolled in. Nasseri remained a man living in transit yet going nowhere. Adapting to a life in limbo, Nasseri forged an existence within the confines of the airport. His daily routine became as routine as the flights taking off and landing. He woke with the early morning rush as the airport stirred with the first wave of travelers, and retired to his makeshift bed during the hushed hours of the late night. His life was a symphony of departure announcements and the ceaseless hum of luggage wheels. His meals consisted of what was available at the airport eateries, and his companions were the ever-changing faces of travelers, transient and fleeting. Despite his predicament, Nasseri maintained an air of dignity and resilience. He kept himself clean and neatly dressed, relying on the airport facilities. His spotless attire belied his unusual circumstances, making him blend in with the sea of passengers, yet standing out in his permanence. His well-read books, his meticulous notes, and his orderly space became his defining characteristics. He became a familiar sight to the airport staff and regular travelers, his presence as constant as the flight schedules. Some offered help, some shared a conversation, and others just passed by, unaware of the unique story of the man they had just encountered. In a place designed for fleeting moments, Nasseri was the constant, a human fixture in a world of transience. Despite the constant whirl of activity around him, Nasseri remained unfazed. He was an island of calm in the midst of the bustling airport. His resilience was a testament to the human spirit's ability to adapt and survive, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. Through his unorthodox life, Nasseri taught us all a lesson about resilience, about acceptance, about making the best of what life throws at you. He was a man who had lost his freedom to travel, yet found freedom within himself. In the midst of the bustling airport, Nasseri had carved a life in a world designed for temporary stays. As the new millennium dawned, Nasseri's story caught the world's attention. A man living in an airport? It was a tale too incredible to ignore. Reporters from international news outlets flocked to Charles de Gaulle Airport. Their curiosity piqued. They wanted to meet the man who called the departure lounge home, the man who had been living in a world of constant coming and going, yet never going anywhere himself. The media coverage was extensive, painting a picture of Nasseri's unique existence for the world to see. It wasn't long before Hollywood caught wind of the story. Steven Spielberg, renowned for his ability to weave fascinating tales, saw the potential in Nasseri's predicament. He was inspired to create The Terminal, a film that took the essence of Nasseri's life and spun it into a tale of resilience and humanity. Starring Tom Hanks, the movie brought Nasseri's plight to the silver screen, further igniting the public's fascination. And fascinated they were. Nasseri's story was not just about a man living in an airport, it was about a man stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare, a man who had lost his home, his identity, and was forced to find a new way of life. People around the globe were captivated. They followed his story, sent him letters, and some even visited the airport to see him in person. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions about his situation. His story was shared, retweeted, and upvoted. Nasseri, a man who had been living in obscurity, was now a trending topic, a viral sensation. His story was a stark reminder of the power of human resilience, and the world could not help but take notice. In an odd way, Nasseri's predicament had given him a kind of fame. A fame he perhaps never wished for, but nonetheless had. He had become a symbol, an embodiment of the human spirit's ability to endure and adapt. In an ironic twist, Nasseri, a man without a country, had become a global citizen. In 2006, after 18 years, Nasseri's extraordinary airport residency came to an end. A culmination of events, both expected and unforeseen, led to this pivotal turning point in his life. Nasseri's journey had become a global phenomenon, capturing the attention of legal experts, human rights activists, and even Hollywood. His predicament was no longer a hidden footnote in the annals of international affairs. It was a headline. The French authorities, perhaps moved by the mounting pressure from the public and media, made an unprecedented decision. They granted Nasseri the right to reside in France. However, the man who had called the airport his home for nearly 2 decades was not in a rush to leave. Ironically, the airport had become his comfort zone, a strange sanctuary amidst the chaos of international travel. But fate had other plans. A sudden illness forced Nasseri to leave his airport abode and seek medical treatment. This unexpected turn of events marked the end of an era. The departure halls that once echoed with his footsteps fell silent. The airport, once his home, resumed its role as a transient space for travelers. Post-airport, Nasseri found a new home in a Parisian shelter. Although his life may have taken a quieter turn, his legacy continues to echo in the halls of Charles de Gaulle Airport and beyond. His story has inspired books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood movie, The Terminal, starring Tom Hanks. More than that, Nasseri's narrative has sparked conversations around the world about statelessness, human rights, and the complexities of international law. His tale of resilience, of survival against the odds, has touched hearts and opened minds. It's a testament to the indomitable spirit of a man who, despite the odds, carved a life for himself in the most unlikely of places. Nasseri's story serves as a stark reminder of the power of the human spirit and the complexities of a world bound by borders and bureaucracy. His tale, though unique, resonates with the universal human experience of seeking belonging and navigating the labyrinth of life.